All right, today we've got the Reebok Nano X1, the shoe of fitness, versus the Nike Metcon 6. We're going to compare the two, and I'm going to give you my thoughts after my side-by-side workout, so stick around. Reebok Nano X1, Nike Metcon 6. All right, let's start from the ground up, as I so often like to do. So the Reebok Nano X1 flat, all rubber outsole. You can see there, very minimal lug depth. It's an indoor shoe, right? It's made for the box. It's made for the gym. It's made for concrete and asphalt and all that kind of stuff. Not that you can't use them outside and on the grass and things like that. You certainly can. But you can see there, not a whole lot to talk about. Float Ride Energy marked on the outsole. So the X1 has given up the decoupled outsole, the decoupled midsole from the Nano X, but in the process has gained something better, in my opinion. We'll talk about that a little bit more shortly here. Nike Metcon 6, flat, all rubber, sticky rubber up front, firmer rubber in the heel, wide, diamond-shaped heel. Also maximum contact area on the floor, on the asphalt, on the concrete. And you can see also, little to no really tread pattern on this thing. How about flexibility? People seem to enjoy that. The Metcon 6 is more flexible, but the X1's pretty flexible as well. Not as much as the Nike though. So not really sure why that is, but I know there's flex screws here, but this is just very soft and pliable, whereas this is definitely stiffer. Just this whole front piece is stiffer than in the Metcon 6. So let's talk midsole next. So the midsole is the part between your foot and the outsole. So, it's like all this stuff here. That's really where the bulk of the cushion is in any shoe, and the Nano X1 and the Metcon 6 are no exception. So, as I mentioned, if you looked at the first workout on the Reebok Nano X1, they have added noticeable cushion as compared to the Nano X. This is a much more pleasant shoe to run in now. You get some cushion in the heel, you get some cushion kind of around the midfoot, a little bit up front in the forefoot, but pretty minimal. This is very different than the Nano X, as I've mentioned. So good deal of cushion now. And that is by way of an EVA foam midsole and Reebok's Float Ride Energy system. So definite change, definite improvement if you like to run and you like impact activities and things like that. The Nike Metcon 6, on the other hand, uses a removable dual density midsole. Talked about this many times. I'm sure you're tired of hearing about it, but it's literally two different pieces of foam joined together. There's a very obvious split here where we go from very cushioned, very soft, to very firm in the heel. It's one thing some people don't like about the Metcon, by the way, is that you can feel that really abrupt transition. I mean, it's just night and day difference from here to here. Some people don't like that. It's one of those things you may not even notice until you think about it, and then that's all you can think about. That's all you can feel. But you can see there's a good amount of material in the midsole. And this is one of the reasons I rated the Metcon 6 as being a more versatile, better all-around shoe, athletic shoe, training shoe, CrossFit shoe than the Nano X, because I much preferred to run in the Metcon. Even with the firm heel, there's still cushion here. I mean, I can compress this with my fingers, when you're running, when you're heel striking, this had some cushion. I felt like more cushion than the Nano X. The Nano X to me basically had not Olympic lifter levels of no cushion, but pretty close. You can also see the flex grooves here in the midsole. So here's the real question then. So what do we have? So how did the two compare though? So I just took these out. I was lifting weights. I'll put some workout footage in here, and I was running, and I was doing a variety of testing. To me, it feels like the Nano X1 now has the better running cushion. So it has better cushion for running in the heel and in the midfoot. The forefoot, it's a toss-up. You can't really tell. They're both pretty minimal. This feels to me like the better shoe for running now because of the cushion. Also, remember, this is now 7 millimeters of heel to toe drop. So heel to toe drop is the height difference between your heel and your toes. Running shoes and things like that often have 8 or 10 or more millimeters of heel to toe drop. This has 7. Why 7? Because they've, Reebok has made this a more well-rounded fitness shoe now. Is no longer hyper-focused solely on CrossFit style stuff. The Metcon 6 has 4 millimeters of heel to toe drop, unless you put in the hyperlifts. The hyperlifts add 8 millimeters. That gives you 12 total. I don't leave the hyperlifts in to run because of the low collar on this thing. You can see the collar's way down here. Look where it is on the Nano X1. Because of the low collar, when I put the hyperlifts in, I get heel slippage. My heel's up too high in the shoe, and my heel is just shaped such that this does not fit as well in the heel, especially when I have the hyperlifts in. So I didn't run with the hyperlifts in. So I was running with 4 millimeters of heel to toe drop, 7 millimeters of heel to toe drop. And again, I feel like the X1 has the edge in cushion. This float right energy, I'm digging it. It's a good thing. Speaking of the collars, the difference in the collars. So the X1's got this tall Achilles pad kind of thing. I will say it feels like this was kind of digging into the back of my heel though. So while I normally say I prefer the high collar, the tall Achilles pad and all that kind of stuff, I do feel like it was kind of cutting into the back of my heel, whereas certainly did not have that sensation here because look how low it is. So, trade-offs there. So the heel to toe drop, of course, the versatility of the Metcon 6 is you can take the hyperlifts in. You can put the hyperlifts in, you have 12. You take them out, you have 4. That's versatile. Here, it's all 7 all the time, right? You can't necessarily do anything unless you add some kind of aftermarket wedge, some kind of aftermarket equivalent, so to speak, of the hyperlifts, which you can get, by the way. There are things you can buy that would do something similar. So that's the drop, that's the cushion, that's the midsole. We've talked about the outsole. Let's talk a little bit about the upper. You can see the X1 this is Flex Weave knit. It is a knit material. It is not particularly stretchy. It is okay as far as levels of comfort, but do not expect a sock-like experience. That is not what this is. Yes, it's knit, is not stretchy. But overall, it's decent. They have another upper coming shortly, the Flex Weave Grit, which will be available with the global launch of the shoe. That is more like last year's Flex Weave. I'll get a pair of those and we'll compare those as well. So the upper, nothing to complain about. It's reasonable. It's not super perforated. The sun doesn't shine through it. But it is knit, and so it's breathable enough. Now, the Metcon 6, of course, has the really breathable upper with the giant perforations. Very tough stuff as well. This is very tough. And again, nothing to complain about here. Just based on the logical aspect of it, I don't know how you could make this less, or I don't know how you could make something more breathable than a shoe that's got a sieve-like upper to it, right? You can see my fingers there. That's got to be super breathable. I guess I don't have a preference one way or the other. on the two uppers, although I will say in comparison the X1 looks a little boring, looks a little drab, doesn't it? Maybe it's the colorway. This is the only one I could get. This is the I'll Call You Back edition. They'll have more here with the global launch coming up. Laces on both. I like flat laces. I like these kind of premium looking laces with a little pattern on here. Flat laces here, nothing to complain about. We've got fly wire, of course, on the Metcon 6. So that's the Vectran filaments that run through the inside of the shoe. So you tighten it up, gives you a little bit of better support around the midfoot. At least that's the theory. And the tongue on both. I don't like the tongue on the X1, I'll tell you that right now, because it's thin. It's just skinny, like I'm talking about this way. It's just skinny tongue, not very padded. And the Metcon has not a ton of padding either. I don't want a big pillow-like tongue, but it feels like it's wider. It doesn't feel like it. I know it's wider. I can look right there and see it's wider. Feels like that does a better job. This, like, it just, I don't know, they almost went too minimal on the tongue, and it feels like you're a little more prone to tightening the laces down and getting some lace bite with this wimpy little tongue on this thing. So again, not a major issue, but something to consider. How about rope climbing and rope stuff? I don't have rope. I don't climb ropes. I've said that many, many times. The Metcon 6 has the monster-sized rope wrap, which, by the way, is one of the things that makes a shoe so dang heavy, I think. This is high 13 ounces, like 13.9 ounces, 13.8 ounces. But the idea is that this is the tough rubber outsole. It's got this tread pattern on it so you can grip the rope, and it's tall on both sides, protects the upper, and is supposed to work really well for climbing ropes. But a whole lot of people don't climb ropes, and you can see that reflected in the X1. So Rope Pro, labeled right there, has all but disappeared. I mean, I'm not really even sure what Rope Pro is at this point. I will say, this is like a TPU frame here. I have to remember to talk about this, but this tough TPU, right? It's a really sturdy, inflexible. It's flexible, but it's a very supportive TPU frame. So that's up around heel. I like that. That gives nice side-to-side support. It feels like good support side by side. But with Rope Pro, this is where you'd grip the rope. And this is tough. This won't, this should protect the upper from getting too much abrasion, although I'm not so sure about this part. And it does seem like it's got seems like you could pinch the rope really well with that kind of knife edge on there. So I guess it would work, but just know there's not a whole lot in regards to rope features on the shoe. Let's talk about weight. So this is 12.1 ounces, 2 ounces lighter than the Nano X, Nano 10. This is almost 13.8 ounces. That's without the hyperlifts too. This is very heavy. You can feel it too. Just picking the two up, you can feel the 2 ounce difference. Why a 2 ounce difference? Well, so much of this outsole, that big heavy rubber, this upper I think is heavier. And just all around, there's more to the shoe. Very tank-like, though, right? This Metcon 6 is built very tough, very tank-like. But if you think in general, running shoes, you like a nice light running shoe, right? So I think the thought pattern there was they didn't want to go too heavy with the shoe because it's supposed to be more well-rounded, more athletic, more general purpose, if you will. So it made sense to make it lighter. And I don't think we needed a shoe heavier than the 14-ounce range for this kind of stuff anyway. The one other thing that we should talk about here is noise. The Nike Metcon 6 is still the noisiest shoe around. What do I mean? I'll put a clip in. The rim of the heel is very, very firm, and these make a lot of clip-clop noise on any sort of firm surface. Wood floors, concrete, the gym, the office, wherever you're walking, these make a very pronounced, very loud clip-clop noise. I guess because of this, maybe also because of the diamond shape, like all that's very, very rigid. In comparison, the Nano X1 is normal levels of noise for a shoe. So it has a little bit of clip-clop, but not an excessive amount like the Metcon 6. And I'll put a clip in that has the two side by side so you can see and hear for yourself. Sound test, Reebok Nano X1, Nike Metcon 6. Sound test. Okay, so how about the workout thoughts? So I'll put some workout footage in. What did I do? I did some cleans, some power cleans, and a little bit of front squatting, and some deadlifting. And when I did the cleans, when I did the squats, front squats, I had the hyperlifts in the Metcon 6 to get 12 millimeters of heel to toe drop. And of course, I just had the 7 millimeters of heel to toe drop in the Reebok Nano X1. Both shoes worked acceptably. Not a whole lot to say. They are both fairly firm in the heel, even though the X1 has more cushion, is still adequate for, you know, the kind of weights I lift. I'm not a power lifter. I wasn't doing 1 RM, 1 repetition maximum weights or anything like that, so it was perfectly fine for me. I will say that I felt like on those front squats, it was easier to go deep. Almost went too deep because I kind of go to the point where my back starts around because I don't have the greatest range of motion in my hips. But it felt easier to go deep with the more drop in the Metcon 6. Beyond that, you know, and for deadlifting, it's a draw. I mean, I like a flatter shoe for deadlifting. I took the hyperlifts out to do the deadlifts. There's really no benefit to having heel raise when you're doing deadlifts. The 7 millimeters in the Nano X1, though, was not an impediment in any way. And even though it's got some cushion, it still was plenty stable for that amount of weightlifting. For running, I already mentioned this, but I do feel like the Nano X1 is now the superior shoe for running. Also, I would expect for impact activities of all sorts. Felt like it had just much more cushion here around the midfoot point, whereas with the 6, you get, that's right about where the abrupt transition happens, and you've got the really firm piece and the really squishy piece up front. This felt like it had better cushion in the heel at the midfoot, and again, it was a draw up around the forefoot. It felt like it was about the same for both shoes. All right, so that was our side-by-side comparison test. Reebok Nano X1 versus the Nike Metcon 6. What do I think about the X1? I like what they've done with it. They've made it lighter by 2 ounces than the previous shoe. They've added the right amount of cushion in the midfoot and the heel with the Float Ride energy system in the midsole. I don't do a ton of running. I don't do a ton of impact, but when I do, I feel like this shoe handles it well, certainly better than its predecessor. No complaints about the new Flex Weave knit upper. The only thing that's on my radar at the moment is I do like a tall collar. I like a tall Achilles pad. I do feel like this is putting pressure on the backside of my foot, maybe too much. Wear tall socks. That's my recommendation for the Nano X1. The Nike Metcon 6, a solid shoe for sure. It is very versatile. I like the hyperlift concept, even if it doesn't work to perfection for me because the collar's low. But I do feel like being able to adjust the drop in the shoe is very valuable. Secondly, I have always liked the dual density midsole of the Nike Metcon 6 better than previous iterations of what Reebok was doing in the midsole with the Nano X. However, I feel like Reebok has now caught up and surpassed Nike as far as the appropriate amounts of cushion in the shoe. I do like the Metcon 6 still, though. I love the perforated upper. I think it looks great. and it's still a very good shoe, and I will continue to test both side by side for further findings. So I hope you enjoyed this review. If you like, please subscribe. We post new shoe reviews regularly. Thank you. Have a good day.